as crazy as this offseason has been, as bonkers, as much money as we spent on free agents, and got the news that Patrick Chung retiring, and now Julian Edelman, man, wow, that. I mean, the way last season ended, he only, the game he had against Seattle last year, that was vintage Julian Edelman. And, I thought we were going to see more of him last year, but he ended up getting hurt, missing the rest of the season, and he ends up getting cut, and minutes later he announces his retirement. And damn, man, Julian Edelman was a warrior, dog. Now, he was never mentioned as one of the best receivers in the league, but he was always a warrior. Dude was always a fighter. And he was Tom Brady's road dog. Like, Tom Brady wore 12. I still, and Julian Edelman 11. Like, those two right there was peanut butter and jelly. And, for him to be one of the few receivers to win a Super Bowl MVP, and for him to, be a 3-time Super Bowl champion, I think a lot of people, I know that we are going to hear tomorrow, is he a Hall of Famer? So the question I'm going to ask and I'm going to answer at the same time, is Julian Edelman a Hall of Famer? And I'm going to say this. If we're not counting playoff numbers, like if we're leaving playoff numbers out of it, I'll say no. If we're combining the two, I would say yes. Reason being, in the regular season, he only had 2 seasons or 3 seasons where he ran for over 100 yards receiving, and 2 seasons where he had over 100 catches. And so, if you add his 12 years, he only had a little over 6,000 yards receiving. And I think he's probably under 50. He's under 50 receiving touchdowns. And so I think if you leave the playoffs out of it, I don't even think people will really look at him in terms of Hall of Famer. But then we got to count playoffs too. And when it comes to playoffs, he's second all time in receiving yards, second all time in receptions. I mean, clutch after clutch plays after clutch plays, and regardless of how many playoff games he played, he still had to catch the ball. Like, as many years as he's been playing for Tom Brady, he still had to go out there and get open. He still had to go out there and catch the ball, and that's exactly what he did. And in result of that, they got him 3 Super Bowl rings, including a Super Bowl MVP. And I think that matters. And so, if we're gonna have, people are gonna ask, is Eli Manning a Hall of Famer? And if most people are gonna put Eli Manning a Hall of Famer, then Julian Edelman should definitely be a Hall of Famer. It may not be for what he done in the regular season, because, again, in the regular season, he's never made an All-Pro. Never, first or second team. He's never been to a Pro Bowl, surprisingly. A lot of his numbers is really flawed, but that don't really determine the type of player he was, because in the playoffs, he was a dog. You see, he's second in both categories behind Jerry Rice. So if we're going to combine regular season and playoffs, I think he's a Hall of Famer. It may not be first, second, or third team. It may take him a while to get there, but I think he's a Hall of Famer. But I love Julian Edelman. Like, I loved him as a receiver. But you know what's absolutely crazy? And I don't think nobody really knows, and nobody figured it out, and I don't think nobody's talked about it. Do you know that Wes Welker, in 7 seasons, has more receiving yards in a Patriot jersey than Julian Edelman in his entire 12-year career with the same team? I mean, granted, Wes Welker had 4 seasons back-to-back with over 100 yards, and I think one season he had over 1,500 yards receiving. So you can kind of say that Wes Welker kind of got in the way of who Julian Edelman was, because if Wes Welker was never there, how will we look at Julian Edelman? Because you got to think, Wes Welker would take a lot of short routes. So it kind of took away from the outside because Wes Welker did everything on the inside. So it kind of opened up the outside for Randy Moss and Julian Edelman most of the time, but Wes Welker did most of the work. So I can kind of say that it took away from Julian Edelman and his numbers, because once again, like, he's 4th or 5th all time in terms of receiving yards as a Patriot. And in 12 years, and that could diminish him, because Gronk has more in 9 or 10 years, and Wes Welker is also ahead of him, and he did it in 7 years. So a lot of people, and I don't want his regular season numbers to diminish his legacy and what he contributed as a Patriot. Because remember, like, Julian, like, we all got to think about what he did in the playoffs as well. So as much as Bill Belichick did in the offseason with re-signing Cam Newton, and honestly, I thought that Julian Edelman would come back, at least 80% of himself, and but he's been banged up for the last 2 or 3 seasons. Like, hell, ever since Tom Brady's last year, he's been banged up, and like, he been battling injuries throughout the last 2.5 years. So, I mean, it's hard, it's hard to see him go after so many years, man, because this Patriots roster is gonna look so different, But thank you, Julian Edelman, man. Thank you so much, bro. Thank you for being a part of the Patriot Nation. Thank you for rocking the uniform. Thank you for staying all 12 years, and I just thank you, bro. And find out on your future endeavors, man. And remember this: hard work and dedication equals legacy. What you do with your legacy will take you from point A to point B. So, y'all, man. Peace out, man. We out.